Welcome, you guys, to another episode of Behind the Visual with Mark Hansen, the podcast where I interview all those people responsible for creating the images and videos you see out in your world every single day. I am your host, advertising and lifestyle photographer, Mark Hansen, if you hadn't figured that one out already. So today, my guest is Alan Katana, and Alan is an integrated producer with McCann Echo in New Jersey. Alan's going to talk about all kinds of stuff. He's going to talk about how he got started over there at McCann as a integrated producer. He's going to talk about if there's a difference between an integrated producer and an art producer. We're going to hear a little bit about how he met his wife, which was work-related. We're going to talk a little bit about his favorite place to shoot, a little bit about hockey, and the best part is the nickname he has around the office and how that all got started. So you definitely need to listen to that part. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy this one, and here we go. Well, dude, thank you for agreeing to do this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. This came through Joe, right? Or was this Matt? Joe, yeah. Joe's a good dude. How long have you known him?
3 years now. He's actually the first person outside of the agency that I met in the industry.
Really?
It was like my first week or two. He was there. He came to our agency to do a portfolio showcase.
Yeah.
So I was still super new to everything, and yeah.
How'd you get into this whole thing?
So I went to school for communications, media production. I've kind of focused in film and always sort of wanted to be a producer. But it just didn't work out initially, and I ended up in TV news. I used to shoot edit for TV news, where it's actually where I met my now wife, who was a reporter at the time.
So were you a cameraman?
Yep. We were like a kind of thing, I guess.
Right.
So she initially we were like, we got to get out of this. It's not paying well, and it's too much stress, and it's kind of ridiculous. So she found a job posting at McCann and said, just apply to this, see what happens. And I did, and it was like a 3-month process. Actually, no, I think it was almost a 4-month process between the first time I did a phone interview and actually getting hired.
Wow.
But I stuck with it and just got into it.
So you like it?
I love it, honestly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I've always been kind of creative, but I also like the planning numbers, like weird stuff that most people don't like.
Yeah.
So being a producer is awesome for me.
What's the difference between, you're an integrated producer, right? That's your official title. What's the difference between that and art producer?
Honestly, couldn't tell you. Other than I know for integrated, they it's for print and video, and I guess digital now too. But I think it's almost just more of a formality than anything else. I don't know that there is a big difference, at least not in our network.
Right. Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure of, because I've known people with both titles, and I don't know what the difference is between integrated and just art producer. So I thought maybe there was a difference, but I couldn't tell. It didn't seem like there was a big difference. So that's why I thought I'd ask.
I think it just depends on the network, honestly. I mean, there's a couple of places I've seen where producers are more like project managers, but they call them producers too. So it's sort of weird.
So are you presenting like photographers and directors and that kind of thing, and getting all that together ahead of time, or do you come in later?
Yeah. Back before COVID, we did tons of portfolio screenings and stuff in the agency. We've done a couple since via Zoom or, whatever platform, kind of virtual ones. We've tapped into a few digital shoots like where people are shooting virtually and showcasing with cameras and meetings and stuff like that. Additionally, I like to send out every once in a while, if I find something like a really awesome creative piece, I'll send it out to the creative team in an email as like like inspirational email type things.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool. Do you have you guys shot yet? Since this whole COVID thing, have you guys, as an agency, put together a shoot and done all that yet? Or are you still kind of holding off on that?
Not yet. There's a few things in the works, although I think with everything spiking, who knows if it'll stick?
Yeah.
Because I think it's planned for the fall, sometime like October, November. Um, but we did have a campaign which just launched a few weeks ago that we were concepting for back early in the year, like January, February, and then went remote in the first week of March. And initially, it would have been a shoot that, like, basically a studio shoot that has some CGI elements to it. But because of COVID, we couldn't shoot.
Right.
So we made the transition to make people in full CGI, just
Really?
total CGI people. They actually did shoot body doubles for wardrobe purposes, just to make sure it felt like really natural and looked normal and not kind of awkward.
Yeah.
There was like a 2-person, like just photographer and body double in the studio. That was it.
Wow.
But yeah, so we did that fully CGI. The team that we worked with they have a digital artist that he does digital paintings, like portraits. And if you didn't see the behind the scenes, like time lapse of him doing it, you would never believe it's not a photograph.
Really?
So yeah, he was fantastic. So
Well, that's
that helped a
incredible,
lot
man.
in getting the realism.
Does that up the budget for the shoot or for the piece?
Um, Probably not. Maybe a little. It's hard to say because we didn't actually estimate what it would have been for a shoot,
Okay.
but it really, I don't think so.
I guess if you're not paying models, hair and makeup, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, it probably evens out. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, well, that's kind of cool though. Damn, I hadn't thought about that part.
yeah, it was definitely a different kind of project.
Yeah, sounds like it. What when you were younger, man? What did you got? Because I saw you do a lot of video, or you did a lot of video before this thing, and then you said you worked at the TV station. Was
Yep.
that something you got into when you were younger? And were you shooting video before you went into school and all that stuff, or was that something that kind of clicked in once you got into college?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, myself, my younger brother, and a couple of our friends, we had. I think my dad had like I don't know, one of the older like Sony Handycams or something, and we
Yeah.
would always grab it and play with it and do stupid things. Like we would reenact like the Ricky Lake show
Really?
and stuff like that. News broadcasts, oddly enough. Um, just random stuff like that we would do. And then it kind of fell away for a little bit, and I started drawing, and just somehow I just picked that up and did a ton of illustrations. Started out like drawing hockey players actually, and then just went into more of my own style and random illustrations and stuff. So initially in school, I went for graphic design, but decided after a year, I didn't really want to do my hobby as a career because then it didn't
Right.
feel like a hobby or anything anymore. It felt more like a job, and I didn't want that. But I was always really interested in film. I did it a little bit in high school, um, and just made the transition then, and haven't looked back.
Yeah. That sounds pretty cool. I mean, sounds like you still doing the illustrations?
No, I, I
No.
couldn't tell you that. Yeah, of course, right.
So the hobby kind of fell off. Yeah, I get it. I understand that completely. So as an integrated producer over there with McCann, what's a typical day like for you if you're not on a shoot? I mean, is it constantly spent in front of the computer or is it with emails? I mean, what do you end up having to do all day long?
It depends on the day. Um, a lot of it is talking with the creative team, seeing what they're working on. Um, like sitting down honestly with them and talking to them and seeing if I can help them with anything. Because my biggest thing is I like to say that me and my boss, we probably consume more art overall than anyone else in the agency, just through like stuff like workbook or looking at portfolios or talking with reps, or I use Instagram a lot, honestly. I think it's awesome for following and finding artists, although I'm not a huge social media fan. But it's really, really good for that. So anytime I can sit with the creatives and find out what they're working on, and then I might have something that they haven't seen that I can help them, inspire or something like that.
How are you finding people on Instagram? Are you searching hashtags, or are you just, how are you doing
No.
that?
I think I initially started just looking for people that I had known or that had come into the agency and I met or saw their work somewhere and would find them and follow it. And then after that, I guess a lot of people appear in suggestions or you'll see in comments and stuff like that. I do follow a couple different accounts like the Sony Alpha account, the Adobe accounts for Photoshop, stuff like that. Some of the different reps I follow as well. So anytime they post something with someone I haven't seen, I'll follow them. It's kind of just almost like the rabbit hole, I guess, where I find one thing and then it links to 5 other things and then, go from there.
Do you get a lot of promo pieces and that kind of stuff from photographers and from reps and on a daily basis?
In email, yeah. I do get a lot of emails, which it's 50-50 if I look at it, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that come down to? Is it come down to a subject line? Like if somebody's like, hey, new work, but everybody's sending me new work, and the next one's like, hey, here's a shot of a kangaroo riding a donkey. Then you'd be like, all right, I want to check that one out.
Yeah, sometimes if it's really interesting, I'm like, well, that's new, and I'll take a look at it. A lot of the time, though, I've already seen it through Instagram, so I'm kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I saw that. So it's kind of, it doesn't always apply. But I guess it does happen a lot too, where I get, I don't know, probably like 12, 15 emails a day, and I'm not always available to look at it if I'm busy.
Right.
I don't get a lot of printed pieces or anything though.
Only I was wondering if people are still sending those.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing I get is like workbook.
Yeah. Do you use that much?
Honestly, not really.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I've been getting from people lately. Is they may see it but they don't really use it much unless it's something for, I guess, maybe somebody out of town where they're looking, they don't know anybody in that area. Maybe they'll use Workbook for Find That or Wonderful Machine or something. I've heard. But in general, I've heard they're not really using it as much.
I mean, I love it for what it is. I think it's awesome to have and look through. Yeah. But I guess after being in the industry for 3 years, which really isn't a long time, but I feel like it's a decent amount to learn about people and who they are and what their styles are and all the different reps and stuff. I mean, I'm always trying to find new artists to go with that we haven't shot with before or used to do CGI or anything like that. I don't like to use the same ones a lot, although I love shooting with certain people, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't really look through Workbook, honestly.
Yeah. No, I believe it. Like I said, I've talked to a bunch of people and they just don't seem to use it very much. I think maybe before everybody had a website and you could, have Instagram and all that and look everything up, then it was probably more useful, but it doesn't seem to be, people don't seem to be using it as much as they used to. At least that's what I've been hearing from people. So you've been in it 3 years. So far after 3 years, what would you say has been like your favorite shoot, your favorite thing you've done there with McCann?
I think favorite shoot is easy. We went to Vancouver 2 years ago, actually this week, to do a week-long shoot out. We shot video for 2 days in the city, and then we went up to Whistler and shot stills up in Whistler
for
cool. A day. And I mean, it was a cool trip. The team was awesome. The photographer we shot with was great. And just Whistler is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I haven't been
I
there,
mean,
but I've heard it's amazing.
yeah, I've never been out to the Pacific Coast at all. Well, I lie. I've been to Seattle, but I didn't get up into the mountains or anything like that. I was just in the
Right.
city. So to get out there into the nature, it was amazing. And then I'm located in New Jersey, so we flew back. And as soon as we got out of the plane, out of the terminal into Newark, it was like, oh, like the heat just and the humidity hit us. We were like, wow, it is so much nicer out there.
Yeah, yeah, until the winter hits, and then but then again, New York's not so much fun in the winter either.
Yeah, no, it's been so hit or miss here the past couple winters.
Yeah, yeah, it's same. I'm in North Carolina, and it's kind of been the same. There's some days. Last year, I don't know that I really put on a heavy coat all winter long. You know, it was we definitely didn't get any snow, so that was a little disappointing because usually you get
Yeah,
some. But yeah, last winter was seemed to be kind of chill compared to or just relaxed compared to last before that.
yeah.
But
I think
yeah,
we had like one storm in like November, and it was I think it dumped like a foot on us, and then that was really it for the rest of the year. I live in a lake community, and it's not a big lake, and I was hoping it would freeze so I could go skate and
oh yeah.
play some. It didn't once. Might have been good enough for like a day, and then it rained and got warm, so it just ruined it.
So
So
where'd you grow up? Did you grow up in New Jersey?
I did North Jersey, like 15 minutes from where I live now.
Okay.
I grew up. There's a lake called Lake Apacong. It's the biggest lake in New Jersey, and I grew up on that lake.
So do you water ski and all that kind of stuff?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I saw you. I think it was on LinkedIn. It said you were a hockey coach,
I
or you
was,
did. You
yeah,
like you coached some hockey.
I did. Right out of high school, actually. My a friend of mine and I, we coached for 3 years. We coached, I think it's the seventh to eighth graders primarily. Sometimes there are high school freshmen in there, depending on their
Yeah,
age cutoff. We coached for 3 years. I think we lost like 5 games
wow,
in that 3 years, and
that's
it was.
impressive.
It's I like to give credit for the players. They were better than we were as coaches, I think. But
Is seventh and eighth grade hockey better than seventh and eighth grade volleyball? Because my daughters both played volleyball in middle school and high school, and middle school volleyball is painful to watch. I mean, it is just awful. So I would assume hockey's got to be better because it's just, I mean, it's almost in what with girls volleyball is literally if you can get it over the net, you probably have a 75% chance of getting that point.
uh, it's probably a little bit better than that.
Well, that's
Although
good.
at the time it felt like it was really competitive and everything. But again, I was just out of high school, which to me,
Right.
high school hockey was the most competitive thing in the world. But looking back on it, I would probably be like, yeah, this is a little, it's not that good. Not as good as I remember it.
I think there are a lot of things that are like that. When you're doing it, you think it's great. Then you look back on it, you go, yeah, that wasn't quite as wonderful as I had thought it was at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, well, so how long? So after you did that, did you just decide to quit, or was it because you had to go get a real job and didn't have time for it anymore, or just
Uh,
work took over? I guess.
yeah, it was between job. I ended up going back to. I took a year off of school to work full time actually, and then I went back to school. So between that and working, it just didn't work out. I think they also had a couple dads that moved up levels and wanted to coach, and it just I don't know, it just kind of fell off. And I've been wanting to get back into it for years, especially now because I live 2 minutes from the arena that we used to coach out of. I just don't know anyone that's in the organization anymore to get back into it. And also
Yeah.
with work now, it's like even being 2 minutes from the arena, I think sometimes they practice like especially the high school teams, they practice at like 3 in the afternoon, which I would never be able to do.
All
So
right. Yeah. So do you get out on the and skate anymore, or is that pretty much over?
Pretty much over. Like I said, it depends on the winter. Not this past winter, but the one before. My wife and I went out and we skated on the lake a couple times. And it's always great to get out, but it's just the winters here are so, like I said, they're hit or miss. So it's like, if I can get out, I will. Once in a while, we'll go over to the arena and do a public skate, but I don't play competitively or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, that whole skating on the lake thing kind of freaks me out. I've never done it, so I would just, to me, I just imagined, hey, I get out and it's cool, and then I hit a thin spot, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in the lake, freezing.
Yeah, she was the same way, but I'm like, don't worry, I grew up on the lake. I know when it's good and when it's not good, and I won't go out if I don't trust it.
Well, that's probably, at least she has you, so
Yeah,
that makes it better. Yeah,
so far I've never fallen in. I mean, knock on wood, I guess, but
yeah. Well, thank gosh for that. That's good.
yeah.
So when it comes to you guys, when you're selecting photographers and directors, is there, when you have the project pop up, is that something where you just immediately something comes to mind, or you start doing research for that kind of a thing? And how would, for new photographers or directors, how do they get your attention so they can be in, like, on your mind when something pops up?
Um, I think it depends on the project. There's a couple that come up where I'm like, I have the perfect person for this.
Yeah.
We did one back in, I think it was like November. We kicked it off, and it was sort of a mix of CGI photography kind of thing. So I proposed actually one photographer, because his style just met perfectly, and then two CGI production houses, which it eventually went to the production house. But right away, I was like, this photographer would be perfect for it because of his style. Sometimes I have people on my mind. Other times, it's just a matter of research. It kind of depends on, like I said, the project, but also who the art team is. Some of the art teams are more particular than others. Sometimes they have people they want to work with. Sometimes they want to work with a certain person. Sometimes the people we recommend, we end up talking to them and like doing an early like call to get estimates going and stuff. And
Yeah.
they don't feel that they mesh well with the personality of the photographer. And I think for me, that's a huge thing too. Personality is key, especially in this day and age when there are just so many photographers that go around. It's
Yeah, the day of being a asshole as a photographer, just a complete jerk, I think are gone, unless you're the top 1% of the 1% and they just have to have you for whatever. I guess then you can be as big a jerk as you
yeah,
want to be. But I think those days are kind of out of here. Seems like, because everybody's shooting.
yeah, and I mean, especially if you think about it, like, do you really want to sit on set for a whole day and work on a project for a month with a photographer that's just an asshole?
Yeah.
It's not going to be very pleasant for anyone, really. So
Yeah, I think it's huge to have a group of people that you really get along with and that you like, and it makes it a lot easier for that. So
yeah,
yeah, I've always thought that those calls are important to make sure everybody's going to mesh with each other, and you're not going to get on set and just find out that you can't stand each other.
yeah, and the creative will suffer because of it. I feel so.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you get to, since you used to shoot video? Do you do any of that for McCann at all anymore, or are you just taking yourself completely out of that?
Um, I do personally shoot. I'm like the unofficial, sort of official video guy for the agency.
Yeah,
So anytime we shoot in house for like a pitch or really smaller internal projects and stuff, it's usually me shooting. And we do have a multimedia team that edits and does motion graphics and stuff like that. So they do all the editing. From time to time, I edit, but it's very rare.
yeah.
Um,
Do you like to edit,
I
or do you
do.
prefer to just hand it off? Yeah,
I do. It depends on the project, though. And I think my editing is more limited to like storytelling editing, just like really basically cuts, that kind of thing. And
right.
they do more with After Effects and special effects than I could even hope to know at this point.
Yeah,
But when it comes to like telling a story and figuring out what shot to use and that kind of thing, I'm much better at that than any other type of editing.
Yeah, that's the way I am. I like that part of it. I have an editor who's great at After Effects. I mean, the dude's, building fireworks out of absolutely nothing, kind of thing. And I don't know. He does all kinds of stuff that I just look at it and go, I don't know how the hell you do any of that. I can do the cuts and the basic swipes and some, puts a little bit of stuff in there. But yeah, when it comes to all that other stuff, I'm out. I'd prefer to hand it off because I don't have time to learn how to do it all. And maybe if I was just really bored and had everything done, I'd start trying to learn how to do it, but I'd rather just pay somebody to do that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
There's so much between learning cameras and then learning all the software and I mean, even the Adobe programs, there's Photoshop, there's Camera Raw, there's InDesign, there's Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, then there's what's the other one? There's another video editing, DaVinci for color or even just editing. I mean, there's so many, and they're all slightly different, and it's just you could spend decades trying to learn them all efficiently.
I was watching some tutorial on shooting video and editing years ago, and I remember the editor came back, and they shot some stuff for the webinar or whatever for the class. They shot it and then gave it to this dude to edit for the next day and bring it in. And he said he stayed up all night editing. And he said, if I had more time, I'd continue editing this more. He said, we have a saying that, a turned in project or whatever is good enough, because he says you'll never actually finish editing a piece because you can always go back and edit more and more and more and more to try and keep working on it. So that sounds about like my wife rewriting papers for her work. She's constantly rewriting. I was like, at some point you just gotta be like, hey, it's enough.
Yeah.
We can do it. Are you getting a lot of requests for stills and motion together
from our clients?
Yeah. So say they're going to shoot a motion piece and they want stills of the exact, because I did one a little while ago where we're shooting motion, but we're going to shoot stills off to the side of basically the exact same thing. So we had a still set up where the lighting mimicked exactly what the video lighting was. And so they'd shoot video, and then the models and everything would come over to the still side, and they'd have still shot for the print ads. And then they'd go back over and shoot. And of course, it was one of those things where video runs over, still images, you were going to have 10 minutes. Now you have 3 minutes, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I that's one of the things I learned right away is you think it'll take 20 minutes and it takes 2 hours.
Yeah.
Always plan. And then somehow we catch up, and at the end of the day, we're done in time. It always seems to work like that. I don't know how, but it does.
Does it start off slower for you in the morning, and so you get behind in the morning, and then after lunch you tend to catch up?
Yeah. Almost every time.
Yeah, that's the way it works for me. It's like, and I'm trying now to make expectations a little more realistic on the morning half of the shoot, and say it's we're trying to get, I don't know, just say three things shot before lunch. Why don't we just make it 2? Because we're probably going to waste time and something's going to happen and it's not going to be it, but we'll make it up, after lunch. And then some people, that they're just not going to go for that. So you go, all right, we'll do 3. And then you're only going to get 2. So when it happens, I'm all, I know it's happened that way.
On my first couple of shoots, I was like, just looking at the clock. I'm like, oh man, we're way behind. And then we just made it in the end. And I was like, all right, I think this seems to be the trend. So I'm not going to freak out about it in the beginning. I'm just going to wait and see how it goes. And then if it really seems like we're behind, I'll say something. But
yeah, it seems to me like if it's about, say, 2 hours before we're supposed to cut for the day, and then we're really behind, 2 to 3 hours, I'll look at the clock and look at the shot list and like, all right, we got to speed this up a little bit. We can't keep going at this pace if we're going to finish this thing. Because right now we're going to, end up missing a shot or 2. But if we speed it up, we can catch up, and we'll be good. But do you guys? Do you end up shooting a lot of stills along with the videos, or is it just separate still mostly for you guys?
I would do the opposite. we, for years, like way before my time, they were primarily a print agency. And so my agency, we don't do any consumer stuff.
Right.
So we just do anything like HCP doctor facing. So because of that, it is more print than anything else. Although the past couple of years we have been pushing more video, and now we're starting to push more digital stuff. But it usually is more like we do print shoots and then they have a video component.
Right.
And usually the video component sort of feels like an afterthought. It's like, well, let's just shoot something and we'll get it and we'll be good.
Are you trying to shoot the same thing as the print?
Sometimes they're kind of companion pieces to it. There have been times where we use the same set and we'll get stills of, like we did a shoot a couple years ago, and we got stills, and then we kept the talent in the same place, and then we ran through like 30-second video shots of basically telling the story of what the still is in motion. That worked really well. We did the same thing with continuous lighting, like you were mentioning, just, that we don't have to switch out or anything.
Right.
It makes it go a little faster. But yeah, a lot of the time we do mostly stills, and tack on video here and there.
Okay. Yeah, because I've heard that it was getting a little more like that. That were, clients were asking for both. So I'm trying to put more on my website where there's more motion, where I didn't used to really. I didn't push it. I didn't put it on there, but yeah, I'd start hearing that a little bit. So tell me, man, what is like the strangest, most interesting thing that's happened to you since you've been in this business in the last 3 years or so? You can even go back into the TV news stuff.
I have a couple interesting stories from TV news. One meeting my wife, which was unexpected. We were both in relationship at the time.
Really?
And just, yeah, but because of the nature of news, like we were going all over New Jersey and sometimes in New York and stuff doing stories, and it was just me and her.
Right.
We were working all day with just one other person, driving sometimes like 2-3 hours to locations to shoot, and then coming back. So spend a lot of time together, just the two of you, and it sort of is a really intimate setting. So we became really, really good friends, and then realized that we kind of felt more than friends, and here we are.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing, maybe not the most interesting, but a funny story, I guess.
Yeah.
I have a nickname around the office, and I've totally embraced it. And some people don't get it, but I think it's hilarious. So my name is spelled ALAN, and I was emailing with a rep once. I think he was just in for a portfolio showcase, and he was sending a thank you email. And I don't know how he did this. I think he just maybe fat fingered my name or was typing like really quick or something on his phone. And instead of saying hi Alan, it said hi anal. And I burst out laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing. I'll be 34 this year, and that never happened. No one has ever made that mistake in 34 years, except this one person. So I sent it to a couple people I work with, and they just kind of ran with it, started calling me anal, and now it's stuck. And I think it's hilarious. Just embrace it. And people are like, "That's really weird." I'm like, "Yeah, it's funny. I don't care." So,
Did you ever get introduced that way?
From time to time, although most people that way because of HR concerns and stuff, I think.
Yeah, right.
The wrong person. But it went all the way up the chain to where our chief creative officer would call me anal at times. Yeah.
Well, man, hey, at least you embrace it.
Yeah, I feel like, well, why not? I mean, it's clearly a mess up, and it's embarrassing, I guess. But I don't know. I find fun in stuff like that. So
Oh, I think it's funny as hell. I think it's great. I wonder if that was a autocorrect. maybe
That might.
maybe he wrote anal so much that it just autocorrected it to anal.
I was like, I wonder what kind of conversations he's having.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, some of those when they autocorrect the weird things, like, all right, what are you talking about all the time?
Yeah. The
Dude,
first and only time it's happened, but it was, I don't know, it was really funny.
did you end up working with the person who called you anal, emailed you, and
I did, yeah.
yeah?
Um, Actually, we've tried to work together for years. One reason or another, it didn't fall off. But I actually worked with him with one of his production houses for the campaign that we did the full CGI people.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, cool. That works out.
I don't want to name any names, but
Yeah, that's probably good for him. How much you doing with production houses? Are you doing a ton over like individual photographers kind of thing, or is it half and half, or
um,
more individuals? Or because I've
I
noticed
think,
production houses have all of a sudden started popping up a lot lately.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of them now. And depending on the piece. I know some will partner with photographers if they feel it's necessary. Um, if we have a really heavy video component, I usually do recommend production houses because that seems to be more along their lines.
Yeah,
But it depends on the still component too. Um, it, I think generally a lot of the creatives in the agency prefer photographers, um, just because that's kind of what they're used to, which
yeah,
isn't a bad thing. But I like to shake it up, so I don't know. I'll recommend. I usually try to recommend both if I can.
yeah. That makes sense. I did a recent shoot for a client, and it came. The client called me ahead of time to tell me that I can't remember if they had already decided that I was going to shoot it, or if that I was. They wanted me to do it, but they had to get the triple bid or whatever. But that the production company was actually going to be contacting me and running everything through the production company. But then and it was weird because I didn't know who to talk to. So I had the client who's calling me, and the producer for the client calls me, and then the producer for the production company calls me, and I'm friends with the client. So I'm sending her probably more stuff and I should have been sending it to the production company as well. So now I finally got to the point where I figured it out, and I just started including both of them in all the emails. But it was a little strange. I'd never done it, that way where it wasn't just cut and dry one or the other. But
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing sometimes a lot more of that than what we used to. And I
yeah,
think it's just the nature of a lot of the creative that we come up with nowadays, and that I've seen around too, incorporates so many different things that it could be like a lifestyle shoot, but also includes CGI. And
right.
you could have an amazing lifestyle photographer that doesn't know CGI, so then you have to partner with someone that does.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Well, man, thank you so much. We were hitting about the time, about 45 minutes here or so. So I try and somewhere between 45 and an hour. But yeah, man, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate you being on here. And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah, absolutely. So anybody watching, listening, if you like it, thumbs up it, like that little like button, hit the subscribe thing, whatever you do to keep the podcast. I don't even know what the hell the real reason is for it. I guess just for analytics. But yeah, dude, thank you again. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks.